No. I can't stop the music. There.
Cheep, cheep, cheep. Good morning. I'm Lon Milo Duquette, and this is Saturday Morning Cartoons. I am here today, April Fool's Day, to absolve you of all your sins. Now don't be afraid because I look like this. You really do want this. It's a good thing. And it's easy for me to do because sin is not real. There is no sin. There are errors to be corrected. But you have plenty of special talents to correct all those errors. But there's no sin. Nothing to be guilty about or ever to be punished or vengeance or death or hell. No, that's not real at all. So, what you have to know is that you are an eternal being. You are innocent. You are pure of heart. You have no enemies, no reason to be afraid. So forgive yourself. And equally important, to forgive everybody else, because there's no sin for them either. Just correct those errors and know that you are eternal and that you are loved and you are loved. And that's all you have to do is to love one another with burning hearts and realize that sin and death is the greatest April Fool's joke of all time, invented by your ego to make you feel separate and alone, and that it is real and what's the truth is not real. Now go, fly away. Oh, here he is. It's the real Lon Milo Duquette.
Well, who's it?
Or is it?
Oh, holy, what the, who the? Well, thank you. That was Anel Hawk, or Anel Crow. That was, anyway, that was the truth, and in her beak was stuffed nothing but God. Well, happy April Fool's Day. Thank you, dear. That was memorable. It is April 1st, 2025. And I've aged pretty well. Anyway,
Let's talk about lies. In Showboat, the character, now socially incorrect after all of these years, Showboat was in the 20s, I think. But the star of the show is Queenie, who is the significant other to the guy that sings Old Man River. So, and she says, asks me no questions and I tell you no lies. 25 years ago, Constance and I were driving to Huntington Beach to attend a group celebration of the Rite of Mercury. When I perceived myself divinely inspired at a stoplight, it was if the wing-footed messenger of the gods had whispered in my ear, informing me how I could magically manifest in myself the spirit and the presence of the god Mercury upon the entire gathering. Am I not the god of liars? I heard him say as the traffic light turned green. Honor and invoke me tonight by speaking nothing but lies. I instantly recognized the profundity of the idea. Excitedly, I turned to Constance and told her that I was going to invoke Mercury by telling nothing but lies the whole evening. No, you're not, was her wise response. I couldn't believe she didn't see the magical genius of the idea. I argued that it'd be the perfect invocation. Every chance I get, I will lie. Mercury will love it. I'll be the only person there actually doing something mercurial, I told her. Besides, it'll be a lot of fun. But Constance saw nothing perfect or fun about it. I want nothing to do with it, was her answer. You're not going to do it. I finally gave in and said, okay, I won't do it. The invocation of Mercury had begun. We arrived a few minutes late. I apologized for our tardiness, saying that we'd just returned from the cemetery where we had watched the exhumation of my father's body. Constance looked at me with silent disgust and found an excuse to get as far away from me as she could for the rest of the evening. She's still mad at me. Of course, everyone wanted to know why my father's body had been exhumed, and I was only too glad to tell them. It seemed that the family of my mother's second husband had been told by an acquaintance that my mother had bragged to a mutual friend about how she had poisoned my father. They took their suspicions to the police and finally got a warrant to exhume Dad's body for testing. Everyone at the party was enthralled by the story, which I told with a perfectly straight face. I even proudly pointed to the ring I was wearing that evening and told them that I'd been allowed to take it off at my father's finger when they opened the casket. Next, I told a few of the cast members how hot they looked in their Egyptian wigs and costumes, but I didn't get a chance to tell many more lies before the ceremony started. At the party that followed, however, I again became fully possessed by my Lord Mercury. The lies dripped like quicksilver from my lips. I started by announcing that our landlord had discovered that our house was contaminated with radon and that we'd been forced to move to Garden Grove, where we now rented a large house owned by General Key, the former Prime Minister of South Vietnam. I said it had a big backyard where we'd be able to do initiations and produce the rites of Eleusis, and that there was a rifle range in the basement. Everyone believed me. You know, it's hard to keep up a constant stream of lies, even for me. In fact, I was starting to realize that it's impossible not to drag some element of truth into a lie. Actually, I was starting to realize the inconstant and relative nature of reality itself. How there is no absolute truth, no absolute lies. Hey, was this the mercurial revelation, the mercurial trance of sorrow? Try as I might to remain in character, the strain of all the lies actually began to show. As the evening wore on, and it couldn't end fast enough for Constance, people began to suspect something was wrong with Lon's behavior. Our closest circle of friends became genuinely concerned. They cornered me in the kitchen, just as I was reaching into the freezer for a bottle of gin. Lon, is there anything wrong? You're acting sort of strange tonight. And I have to digress and say that was voiced by someone who was a professional counselor, psychologist. I looked at each of their sweet faces, and it suddenly seemed that the burden of the universe was about to be lifted from my shoulders. Every cheap movie confession cliche echoed in my brain with Shakespearean gravitas. I can't go on living a lie. This was a surprise payoff, a moment of unexpected spiritual bliss. A breathless moment when the feather of Mott quivers on tiptoe upon the scale pan of judgment. The moment my answer would free me from the mercurial hell that Constance knew I would create for myself with this stupid harebrained idea. These people loved me. They cared. I'd toyed shamelessly with their feelings. I was ashamed and so overwhelmed that I didn't know where I'd be able to answer without choking up. I put down the bottle of gin and looked each of them in the eye and confessed. My doctor told me I have a brain tumor. Everyone gawked at me in stunned silence. People near the kitchen overheard, and soon everyone at the party knew why I had been saying such outrageous things all night. When Constance heard this last whopper, she could stay silent no longer. He does not have a brain tumor. He's been telling lies all night because Mercury is the god of liars. Nothing he said is true. I told him it was a stupid idea. When the shock wore off, everyone else thought it was a stupid idea too. Nobody, it seemed, recognized the pure magical genius of my invocation of Mercury. Nobody but me, of course. For while I chalked it up to that curse of the Magus thing, then I just realized pranks such as this are not what invocation is all about. Well, that's our April Fool's 2025 offering. And we hope to see you tomorrow for Sunday school. Thank you. You look very nice in that beak, dear. That beak becomes you. You want
and
to?
become the beak. What did I say, by the way? I have no idea. This was spur of the moment. Lon asked me to do this.
We'll-
Put on your beak, honey.
We'll play it. We'll play it back for oracular purposes. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law.
Love is the law. Love under will.
See you tomorrow, hopefully.